guys, and welcome back to another installment of our Americano series. This tutorial is step by step, and today we're taking another step towards shading. So be sure that you watch the first video in the series and then join us back here so that you can be all caught up. Alright guys, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to be using a clear glass bowl, irresistible staining medium, Viridian Blue 02, Genesis Blush 02, or a dark brown, something comparable if you're using another line, and then Gamsol. We're also going to be using a small palette knife in order to get the paint come out of the pot, a liner or detail brush, a mop brush, and two different sizes shading brushes because we're working with a toddler kit. Let's jump right in. Okay, so first thing that we're going to do is add some Flesh 02 to our bowl using our small palette knife. We're just filling up the very edge of the knife here. And I always like to suggest, whenever you are initially making your mixture, to start out with less than what you think you'll need. It's always best to start out with a little than having so much. Although you can always preserve your paint with the cling wrap that we discussed in our very first video. So if you notice, the Flesh 02 has a red base or red undertone. And what we want to achieve is more of a dark brown skin tone. So in order to do that, we need to neutralize the red tone with green. Green, of course, is the opposite of red on the color wheel. So that's why we're going to go ahead and take a little bit out of this pot, just a very little bit. This green can be very overpowering, so we want to make sure we don't get too much. So I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see that. It's just the very tip of my palette knife. And I'm going to put that on the side of the bowl beside the Flesh 02. That may not even be enough, but yet and still we have something down there. We're gonna go ahead and mix it so we can take a look at what our color is. And I can already tell we don't have enough paint in our container. But like I said, always start out with a little because we don't want to waste product. Let's grab some more of that Flesh 02. I'm gonna wipe off my knife here. Being really generous with what I am getting out of the pot. Because essentially I want this mixture to last me the entirety of painting the layers for this kit, for this step. So I want to make up enough to last me all the way through. And so I'm just mixing any clumps or any hardened paint on the sidewall before adding any type of medium. Just to make things a little bit easier on me whenever I start to mix. So I feel strongly that we have achieved a very dark brown. That red has that green has neutralized that red undertone pretty good. So let's put as much as we can off of the knife onto the side of the bowl. We'll wipe our knife off and add, we're gonna add double the amount of pigment that we added. So double the amount of thinning medium against the pigment that we've added. So let's mix this. It's a beautiful brown color that we have. So we want to ensure that it matches our, so we want to make sure that our color matches the mug 2 on our swatch card, on our recipe card. So I'm really just mixing really good to make sure there is no pigment in little small bits that will end up on the kit as my brush is taken from the bowl and applied to the kit. Okay. There's more of a red tone in the Americano in this. Of course, these are stock images. So with that being said, I feel really strongly that I'm close enough to it. So I think we can say we're good. Of course, I've done this many a time, so I feel really strongly that we're good to go. I'm gonna add a few pumps of Gansol. Just 3. And what that's going to do is it's going to stretch my mixture. It's going to make my mixture even more flexible on the vinyl and just give me greater stretch and greater reach with what I currently have here in my pot. So let's take a shading brush, saturate my brush, take the pigment from the sidewall and just get it all mixed. And so what I'm going to do is leave some of that Gansol on the bottom because I don't need all of it. So if anything starts to change with my mixture, for instance, if it becomes dry, then I'll just take what I have from the Gansol, take that and add it to the mixture on the sidewall here and mix it in. But until then, I'm going to leave the Gansol that's at the bottom. I'm not worried about it evaporating because it really lasts. Okay, so I'm going to dip my liner brush into a little bit of this Gansol at the bottom of the bowl. And for this layer in particular, I want you to see where I mark my brush. This is so super important. So if you want to take notes, I really highly suggest that you do so now so that you'll know exactly what to do whenever you start on your own. There is a step that I've taken off camera because it's not necessary for you to do to achieve the results of this particular baby. I can tell you the step that I've taken was I have gone ahead and did some underpainting, which is new in my skill set. For this baby, I didn't do any of that. So you know when you close your eyes, this part gets darker or redder depending on your complexion. And so we know that we want to make sure that, I'm going to add some dots here, that we want to make the very bottom of the eyelid dark for sure. And then we also want to make sure the inner part of the eye is darker. The nostrils, because we're not using a Dremel to put actual holes in there. So we want it to appear as though there are holes. So we'll definitely be going in there. You can also decide to go into the creases on a few layers if you choose to. Everyone, I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much to 1,000 subscribers. I am so grateful. Thank you guys. It lets me know that my hard work is not in vain. And I want to just mention the blending and shading video that I have on my website. Guys, it took me so long to film that tutorial for you. It's real in-depth. It is very precise, and it gives you a greater understanding of where to lay, or where you can, because I don't ever want to tell you what to do as much as I want to kind of hold your hand and show you my way, and then you can discover along the way what it is that you really want to do. But nevertheless, I give you a template on where to apply those different mug layers onto the kit, layers 1 through 4. You do not need to purchase that in order to complete this tutorial. I just thought I'd offer you an opportunity to see or give you more insight as to how I created my babies in the beginning. And I started out with this template. As I've grown, you can't even tell that I'm using this as a template, but this is really what I choose to do every time I lay my brush to shading a layer onto the doll kits. And I thought that it was fair to charge a nominal fee because of the wealth of knowledge and because of the extensive amount of time it took me to create that video. So you can choose to purchase it or not. It's really up to you. But let's go ahead and jump back into the tutorial. See you guys back on the inside. I'm going to give you a set of guidelines. You may decide you want to leave this lighter. That's completely up to you. You may decide that you don't want to make this darker. That's completely up to you. But these are things that I like to do, and I just want to share with you again my technique on how I arrived here. So in looking at this, at the baby's lips, I am going to line the bottom of the lips. Whenever we get to that part, we can already see this dark part that's naturally a part of the sculpt. So I'm just going to enhance that by shading it. So I'm marking where I'm shading. I can see another area that's a shadow, that already has a shadow effect. So I'm just going to enhance that, or deepen it, if you will, by going in there. And maybe every few layers, as I add these shading layers, I may do a little touch to the cupid's bow. Not much, because we don't want it to be too harsh in that area. I'm also going to make sure that the perimeter of the head is shaded. I'll do that by measuring from the chin to the nose to find out exactly where I want to start. A lot of people use this tip for rooting, like to start their hairline, but I like to use it in my first layers of shading so that I can gauge where I need to place shading for it to be as natural as possible, and also so that I can show a gradient scale from light to dark on a particular kit. So I take my thumb and my index finger and I place it on the chin and the nose. Place it on the chin and the nose. And then what I do is I move my thumb up to the nose. Oops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Keep my hands the same width and pull out. And put my thumb up to the nose and let my index finger fall. You guys see that flappiness on my glove, which I hate. Put my index finger on the forehead, and wherever it rests naturally, that's where my first layer of shading, or my mug 2, will begin. So I can already tell that I am in the very center of the forehead, which is good. So we'll go ahead and mark that. So this is where my shading will begin. And the shading that I do on the perimeter of the head will go in this direction. Go around and in that direction. And of course, I'll take it all back. But it will come down the kit just like so. Because I don't want to cover up the entire portion of the face. More so because we don't want this to appear as flat as a baby alive. We want to, of course, keep our highlighted areas, which are those areas that we're not going to touch with paint. but we will allow paint to just rest in those areas. That will just occur naturally as we are painting, or excuse me, as we are shading. Paint will naturally fall into the highlighted areas from the cosmetic wedge. So I'm not going to go in with paint to intentionally paint the highlighted areas. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We'll do one side of the face first, just so you can see exactly where I'm wanting to place it and how I'm placing it. So for sure, I'm going to go into the most inner parts of the eye. I'm looking at where shadows are already falling, because that tells me it's like a doorbell, if you will, like, ding dong, I'm here, like, come get me, come shade this area. I know that sounds corny, but hey, it's what works for me. And I'm of course going to go in between um, the creases, go in the creases here. So for section 2, or mug 2, or block 2, I want you to understand that the number of layers that you're going to place onto your kit is completely up to you. I am going to do about 3 or 4 of these layers onto my kit, because I'm really going for a very chocolatey skin tone. And in order to do that, I need to build up these layers slowly and a good bit of times. Oops, sorry, is that a frame? When painting black Reborns, it takes lots of patience. I'm just dipping my brush into some Gamsol just to get some of this paint to move, to spread it, because I don't want paint just to sit in one area. So I'm going to take my mop brush and get any paint that's potentially gotten, and using this tool to get any paint that's in any type of crevices that's hard to reach with the mop brush. And then I will begin to use my angle tip in to pounce. So we can see from just this first layer, there is like a shadowy effect, but there's not much color left behind. So that's why we want to do a few layers of this shade to ensure that we make a difference in the color of the kit. And my reference is the kit that's on the card back here. That is what I am going by, because mom wants her version as close as I can get it to that baby. So we can see, because I just did this side, so we can already see a darker shadow on this right nostril. You're left looking at the screen, but the kit's right, of course. We can take a look at the eyelids, and see the difference there. And even where the mouth is starting to take shape. Okay, so I am happy with that. I just want to cast some more shadow around the mouth area. Let's do this side so you can see what I mean exactly. And I am making sure to pounce really good so that I don't leave like any harsh lines anywhere. But you can kind of see from a downward angle where the shadow has taken place around the mouth. I don't want to do any heavy shading as much as I want to just cast the shadow or the effect of depth. Okay, so we are going to do the perimeter of the face, and that will include from this point backwards as well as the neck region. So just taking my shading brush, mixing it at the bottom, the portion that has that gamsol, because we want to keep it, like I said, thin as possible. And let's do one side of the head. Making sure to work our paint all the way into the ear, behind the ear, underneath the ear. And with toddlers, I'm always like a huge advocate for keeping toddler skin smooth. However, we know that there are no toddlers with actually perfect skin. Like, yes, they have that baby soft skin, but they may have little scratches. They may have little blemishes or just, you know, things that occur to toddlers as they're learning, growing, bumping into things. So whenever we think of adding items to a toddler, it's going to, not items, but, you know, whenever we're thinking about adding blemishes to a toddler, we want to make sure it's realistic. So it's always good to look up realistic babies to see what type of blemishes at this age often occurs on toddlers. And I would say, because this kid is going to fit 18 to 24 month clothes, so I would say look around that age frame, age range. Sorry, y'all. It is 1 o'clock in the morning, and I just got the urge to come out here and film this section for the night after already filming something else. But nevertheless, I want to make sure this tutorial does not lag too much, because if you are painting with me, it would have to be very frustrating to be stuck on or starting something and then having to wait days on end to begin the next step. So I am doing my best to get this out as quickly as I can. So that is one side of the face, and we're just going to pounce without taking over the highlighted areas. Getting into the ear really good with our tipped wedge. Getting behind and under. Let's flip this baby over and do the other side. So that will do it for the face. And then we will move on to the arm and leg. All right, let's put this to the side for it to air dry. And then, yep, we'll be right back with the arm and leg. So let's go ahead and begin with the hand. So as you can see, I'm not giving you much direction when it comes to the arms, because you can facilitate how you want to resemble realism. You can decide, again, where you want to place, how many layers you want to place. So it is truly at your discretion. Every kit is different. And you want to keep that in mind when you are creating your babies. your little peanuts. I just love toddler hands. And if you haven't checked out any of my shading videos, I highly suggest that if you're on a mobile device, you can check out the video that I'll have linked up here on the top right hand side. If you are watching on something else, I highly suggest that you look at look in the library of the videos and look for the detailed shading that we did on Chenoa. Maybe a little bit different, but it will at least give you a better guide if you need one. All right, so let's hang this to air dry. And so the feet are going to be very similar to that of the arm. So with that being said, I'm going to start out here and then I'll probably speed through this portion of the video. And just remember, you get to decide how many layers of this your baby, your little peanut gets. So I'm going to do about 3 or 4 to reach my goal. So I encourage you to go for it.